There we go. So, again, let's just kind of... Oh, this is interesting. We've got a forward start from Mitfit, so I'm going to be... He's probably going to rush for the rocks or something. I've sort of decided I want a 2-mech start on this map. And then get out a constructor. Constructor can assist the lab, and then the commander can move forward. The reason I'm thinking 2-mech start is because you're more... I've said this before, like, you're more energy constrained than metal constrained. I do think, though, this constructor should have assisted the factory, and the commander should have just walked, or at least put out some scouts so that I can deal with this, some scouts and units, and get the commander out. Because he's actually sacrificing... let's see just how much he's sacrificing in terms of production here. He's about 200, 300 metal behind. 200? And so, if he's only getting, like, not too much resources from that, then that's pretty good. It's not fun that I'm having to cover these guys against this. Probably should have pinged it, because it did come through my gap, I believe. But yeah, he gets all these resources out here. But in spite of getting all those resources, I'm actually still ahead of resources compared to Mitfit. Okay, now he's ahead. But then because I've got the extra mexes from having this, I'm going to become ahead again. And so sure, he gets those resources and kind of stops me from getting that, which is better than nothing. I missed the micro there, but what I should have done, because my micro with the ticks there could have probably taken out both of them, but they kind of came in one at a time, and so half of them were firing. If we also look that I've got these, like, cumulatively, that's about 91% health left between them, and so that would have been enough damage dealt to at least take out one of them. So if I'd have surrounded them, targeted one at a time, and had all my ticks firing at once, I would have been able to take out both of the pawns. But I wasn't able to. But yeah, that's 1.7 in K income compared to Metvet's 1.3, even though he's got all that reclaim in the middle. So he also, that said, he also has a significantly larger army than I do, which in theory is enough to take out the commander, except it's probably not enough to take out the commander with the fact that I've been able to scout his units, and there we go, I ping them for my allies, and my allies will take care of that. Knowing that he's gone this way, I shouldn't have pulled back my scouts so far, so that I can, like, I should have placed them here so I can see where things are going. Potentially also bring up my units and my commander, because I've gone and built 3 laser towers here. 1 laser tower would have been enough to keep these units out here, and I'd have been able to get up here and build some stuff a lot faster. So that really delayed me there and was really less than ideal. Here in the base, I'm building more energy. I think I do kind of want to just go with building an energy storage rather than building converters, but here I don't even have enough for converters. Building another nano turret slightly too early on that. Maybe build another 2 wind generators, then a nano turret, then another couple wind generators, then a storage. And now I'm going to build a ton of wind generators, which is potentially going to steal a huge amount of time from my pawns. Just what I'm doing on the front there is okay. given that I've lost all my pawns in the front, I think was wise to build that laser tower first. And I do have a bunch of metal in storage, so it's not too urgent to get more mexes out. So it does look I'm being about pretty evenly split between these pawns and those wind generators. Given that I'm the only person mid, actually, it's kind of nice having those back there. But also given that I'm the only person mid, I think I'd have preferred, let's say I could probably get away with 150 less energy production. So basically, so I could have gotten away with maybe another 8 pawns rather than wind generators and energy production there. Plus, I missed that reclaim and that other mechs before this factory. That should have been claimed in order for me to actually have the metal to throw out that factory. I do like having this factory on the front line here, but it may have been better to put the factory here, get like a nano turret and stuff in the choke point, as more of a fallback point, because having this pressing up against this choke point here, that's kind of where I want my units to be. And so by putting the factory out here, I leave it hanging and vulnerable when I'm going to have to be putting most of my army here, where Mitvit can probably just come up and defend that. Would have needed to more heavily defend this, because I do believe I do lose that factory fairly quickly. I also didn't start reclaiming that factory fast enough after I started building that one. That's pretty bad, sending that out ahead. Looks like it survives though, which is cool. So what I do here is I regroup my army, and then because he's got these aggravators, even though that's 15 grunts against 15 pawns. So what I'm going to be able to do here is, especially because he isn't paying attention, the aggravators move slower than the pawns. So I've lost one, the aggravators move slower than the grunts. So I've now lost 3. I've lost 3 pawns, and he's lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 aggravators, and 1, 2 grunts. So that was a really good trade for me. But then I run it back and lose a few more. I don't think I could have reasonably continued, because he kind of outranged me. And so he could have kept running back and just picked me off. And so I had to kind of regroup. And now, because next time I think I should throw up a couple nano turrets before I do the switch with the factory, because now I've got a ton of resources and storage, and I'm actually going to throw this factory up again in order to just be able to build stuff. Although then I'm going to run out of resources again to build stuff, so probably should have just left that factory there until I had 2 construction turrets out here. So that would have also freed up my commander to come over and get involved in the battle, which would have been very advantageous, considering it's a gun. And it's worth more than 200 metal worth of pawns, and 1 more construction turret would have covered that. The construction turrets also would have been better further forward, because I still haven't got this mechs actually. Further forward where they can repair these laser towers and potentially assist in building extra defenses. And now I'm going to build another laser turret so far back there. I also don't respond to this army coming in. Coulda, shoulda moved my commander back down here. Yeah, not having that build power there was pretty punishing. But I'm also sort of 1v2 in that case, which is less than ideal. How are the armies compared here? That's 20 grunts and 9 aggravators and a res spot. And that's 30. So let's watch this. He responds poorly. The aggravators are further behind. And I completely trash it. Not entirely though. But because my commander's busy over here, I'm not able to like fully secure this area. And so that was like a really good battle for me. I really need a widget that like has damage dealt in terms of metal cost. And then also metal cost damage mitigated in terms of repair and rehealing. Those stats would be extremely valuable. Versus damage efficiency. I get the reclaim. I mean, he's got aggravators here, so it's kind of not worth coulda shoulda regrouped those pawns before sending them in and engaging there. Coulda shoulda, seeing how many resources I have here, rather than going for a storage, maybe another couple nanos or something, and once I start floating resources, start dropping laser towers. Because without the laser towers, I'm kind of just gonna die. Good D-guns though. The first one was pretty bad, I missed everything, but yeah. Thankfully I've got support coming in here. Like, there's not much I can really do. Like, I haven't taken these metal extractors, so I could bring up one of these constructors and build those metal extractors, which I've been neglecting. If I could bring up a constructor, then I could also start throwing down beamers and stuff, which would have been more efficient against this onslaught than just pawns. I don't really want to start putting out Rocketeer in this case, especially in this sort of a choke point. But that, because there's no static defense, I do think pawns are my best option to get at their aggravators. He's also been very lax with his grunts, which is really allowing me to close the distance on them. Only problem is once you've got pawns in a choke point against tanks, they kind of don't have the maneuverability to really do that damage. So we've got Blade Wings coming in, but like, what can I do about that, considering like I'm barely able to keep up with these two armies? We've got a Tech 2 over here from this guy, which is okay. It's okay because Sabotai's also chosen that moment to tech, but it may have been a little more advantageous to wait another second and deal with this first. We've also got T2 from Mighty Sheep and Elmer, and Mighty Sheep is beating Elmer. I don't know if it's had any support, but battles tend to go one way, and so if it's left as a 1v1 for long enough, it will just snowball for one player. You really need the allies to come and help out to change that, and I haven't been able to because I've been losing this front over here. We've actually got a pretty Oh, do we? What's our resource produce? No, they have the resource advantage. Probably. Again, I'm not building these metal extractors. Once I've got res bots reclaiming, the commander should be building the metal extractors. So the instant I give the reclaim order for that, I'd give the commander the mechs build instructions. I've gone for an air factory because I didn't check my allies' bases in order to check that they had air, which was probably a mistake. I end up just throwing out air scouts and then calling it a day. Yeah. Nothing's happening right now. I'm like looking at this army going and like, what can I do about it? Like, I'm outnumbered 1v2. We've sort of got some CJ units here, but I think this is a sort of repeat of the entire our team having tons of resources in storage. They only have one player with resources in storage, and that's Mighty Sheep, and he's gonna turn that into a fusion, and he's winning his front on that, so it's kind of okay. It looks like I could have afforded to stay T1, except I was never shared a T2 con to upgrade my mexes by anyone. And so I've kind of been forced to go T2. I think it... Okay, he's reclaimed his T2 factory? He's reclaimed his T2 factory and gone... Here's a tip for guys. Don't build an anti-nuke before you build a fusion. You won't have the energy to build the anti-nuke, and you won't have the energy to load the anti-nuke. So it's faster to build the fusion first. Unless you've got a ton of wind generators, which he does not. Like, I've got it... I'm using all the energy I'm producing too, but I could have put my sharing bar down so that he could have the energy. I could have stayed T1 a bit longer, and that would have given me a bit of an army. I could have switched to vehicles, built a couple anti-air bots to deal with the blade wings that have been thrown at me, and then go for vehicles. But not having been shared a T2 con is really damaging because I'm at a real disadvantage here now. And I'm barely putting out my Tech 2 con while they already have a significant amount of Tech 2 extractors going up. And so that only widens the eco difference there. Mighty Sheep isn't rebuilding his mexes with enough haste out here, it looks like. He's also reclaimed his factory with... I mean, he has used some of the resources, but not really. He'll get there, I guess. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I can do at this point. 1v2 situation that's passive, like at the moment. Long-range static defenses. Not really, because I know Tech 2 is on the front line, and I can't afford Tech 2. And so T1 defenses are... Yeah, T1 defenses are just going to invite his Tech 2 to roll in and pick them off. It's just going to give... Assuming I've been given T2, yeah, exactly, definitely. That's what I tend to do at T2 anyway, is just defend for a little while, especially if the enemy's been aggressive and investing into units. Yeah. Like, if T2 wasn't on the battlefield, what would have been advantageous is to bring a constructor up, build like a circle of say five or six beamers around. But then by that point, because the plain and simple fact is I'm outnumbered here. And so there's nothing really I can respond to this with. But what I could have done is like built a few beamers, relied on the blade wings. But the thing with having mobile units to defend in a situation where you're outnumbered is that you can wait to engage. You can pick when you engage. Where when you have static defenses, you don't get to pick when you engage. You're at the mercy of when the enemy decides to engage. And so in a 1v2 scenario where you're like totally outnumbered, it's better to have mobile units so you can pull back until, say, your allies' blade wings come in, or they can bring reinforcements in, or whatever. The other thing with having a mobile army is that you can pull them back while you walk your commander into the army, and so in a choke pointy situation like that, where you've got hills where you can walk in from the side and do tricks like that, that's kind of what I was thinking, as well, was gonna be my game plan. Yeah. Because I think the game's really static right now. I go for a fusion. I'm kind of torn about this fusion. 1 second, sorry. So this fusion, you can, on a map with such wind as this, you can get much better efficiency with wind generators. But I was really struggling to get out my queue for that and get that down. But like, see, I have... How much is the fusion? The fusion's 4,300. So I have more than half the energy production of a fusion with less than half the metal cost. So wind generators would probably have been a better way to go. I mean, you've got space constraints and not wanting to build more nano construction turrets and stuff like that. Sending in those blade wings without my army there was a real mistake from him. Yeah, and we see how the enemy's just echoing as the front is whittled down. Because of just light defenses, and they can afford to do that. I would have preferred to see Boom helping out in this fight a little more and trying to push back this vulnerable territory in the middle rather than trying to push his lane. Not that it's going to make a huge difference, to be honest. But I think that would have been more advantageous. Yeah. It's worth building T1 Air Lab for a con planes for wind. Not quite at this point in the game. What would be more worth it is building a T1 K-Bot lab and getting out a res spot and a few T1 cons to start building metal extractors and getting reclaim. Rather than building like this bunch of construction turrets so tightly here, space them out a bit, so that you can build the wind generators over a large area. I spent too much metal on them anyway, so probably could just reclaim them. given that I'm in such a tight spot here and I've got so much energy, it's probably more advantageous to secure this choke point, secure the metal there, because there is a ton of metal there, and that's just being reclaimed. Yeah. It's really hard to tell with stuff like that, but as far as I can tell, this spam isn't being efficient. Like, look how many grunts you've lost without killing a single one of these units here. Okay, we lost one of the welders. That was doing... I kind of feel like I've talked about this battle as much as I can. Actually, it may have been worth putting out a long-range cannon here. But I was kind of thinking about how I could push through it rather than... But if I'd have reclaimed that factory, brought over my T2 constructor, which is somewhere here, and a T2 cannon right there, my build power is kind of out of position, but I could have afforded the construction power if I'd have reclaimed the factory. That may have been worth it. Yeah, I really think this unit spam is only worth it if you bring the big group in all at once. Because otherwise it's like, no matter the efficiency of the unit theoretically, you're sending it into a continuous 1v5. And so it's going to be doing basically no damage compared to what it could do. It's going to be doing a fifth of the damage in a fifth of the time. So it's going to be doing like 1/25 of the total damage that it could be doing if it had another 5 units beside it. And then you've got the problem with this. I mean, Mighty Sheep doesn't have any area of effect weapons, but if he did, that would just shut down sending them in as a group. Like, you could kind of try to space them out a bit. But then, oh, that was beautiful. That was actually beautiful. Yeah, I've put snipers out here, but, And snipers work because I've got a bit of static defense. I've got allied units, probably worth reclaiming the hounds at least. The sprinters are worth it for catching anything that tries to bypass. Yeah, we see again how like the attacking pawns are like just being picked off by the grunts. They were mismicroed there, and so the pawns actually do something. But like a single fat boy, there aren't that many like good AoE weapons actually. Like, all the AoE weapons are like really expensive, really low rate of fire, and really high damage, sure, but it's like there aren't that many of them, to be honest. Like, Fiends are actually... Fiends have a reasonable area of effect on their weapon, actually. Let's just bring that up. That's 24 area of effect, so they can kill, like, 2 pawns at once. potentially up to 3. I'm not exactly sure how large that 24 is. But I think it's about the size of... I think it's about the size of a pawn, a little bigger than a pawn. So you can damage the pawn and the 2 pawns either side of it or something. Techniques would have been really useful in this situation for clearing out this area, because they do have that big area of effect. Also, some sort of radar in my base. I have one over this side. I guess that's about as good as I can ask for. So, what area of effect weapons do we have? We have... The Hound has 36 if it's in its scatter shot, and that's if it's in its the slow projectile, and so that's actually pretty good against grouped pawns. Like, you'll miss a few, but you'll do so much more damage in the area of effect. You've got the Tumbleweed. Oh wow, that's actually pretty good area of effect with a very high edge percentage on the Recluse. Okay. And this is just gonna die because I'm overwhelmed with units. Not much to say about that. Other than I should probably destroy the pawns first, because rather than his welders, because they're faster and they do more damage for their health. And then you've got the Fat Boy, which is only a 6-second reload time, so it's not that bad. It's pretty bad compared to something like a Goliath, and we have lost all our Cortex T2 factories. We have no AoE there. We've got the 2 different crawling bombs, none there. It's just on the Fiend. That's the only one we've got. We've got a little bit on the Termite, but not much. So Cortex generally doesn't have any good area of effect weapons, but it's probably enough. Like, if you're really if someone's doing T1 spam at you, you could probably really get away with just spamming bedbugs right back at them, except that energy cost is actually pretty big. That energy cost probably amounts to something like 80 metal in energy cost. So you'd have to be destroying about 3 pawns or grunts per thing. A pounder would have good. I don't have the stats for that here. But a pounder is pretty good. People say that Sheldon has basically nothing. 18 area of effect, which is like they have to be like right on top of each other to get any area of effect damage on that. And so Sheldon are usually just run down before they can do enough damage, because their damage per second is really low. Like, if we look at a sniper's damage per second, we've got 250 damage per second on the sniper for about 700 metal. We have about 70 damage per second on a Sheldon for 400 metal. And I set that in a way that makes the Sheldon, like, look more attractive than it really is. So yeah, a lot of little things that went wrong that game, and I mean, kind of the struggle on West in the 1v2 that happened there, that Sabotai kind of was winning anyway. I mean, if I could have operated a little bit better in mid, with building my second factory a little later, that could have been better.